going to share my views on the mighty nation India. Actually, India's past, ancient India was a great nation. It was such a great nation that very few Western and Arabian and other countries can compare with. So I am writing a book on the glorious past of India. This is a part of the book I'm going to share with you. India, the mighty nation with great treasure, house of both human capital as well as natural wealth, was an attraction of Muslims from Arab, Turkey, Afghanistan and Mongolia to the European Christians since the beginning of 8th century till the end of 19th century. From the invasion of Muhammad bin Qasim, a young 19-year-old Arab general from Basra, Iraq, in 1711 AD to 1862, when the last Mughal dynasty Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar died, India was ruled by different foreign rulers. In between these 13 centuries, at least 7 major attacks came on the economically prosperous Hindustan by different foreign forces. Sometimes they were Turks, they were aggressionists, and they were some crazy foreign rulers who wanted to have the Indian treasure, who wanted to loot the Indian gold, jewelry, and so many natural wealth existed in this great nation. It seems to me that the aims behind all invasions were mainly threefold. What are the three things? The first thing was extension of their empires. Secondly, religious conversions. And thirdly, looting of valuable wealth of India. Since the Indus Valley civilization that flourished around 2500 BC till the rule of Harshavardhana in the 7th century, Indian history, economy, culture, administration, and trade were well known to the people of the West, as well as other Arabian and Asian nations. The Indus Valley civilization is noted for its cities of brick, roadside drainage system, and multi-story houses, and is thought to have some kind of municipal organizations with many modern-day facilities. Most of the Indian subcontinent was conquered by the Maurya Empire during the 4th and 3rd centuries BC. The Vedic civilization from 1500 to 600 BC contributed to the foundations of the various cultural aspects of India. During the classical period, various parts of India were ruled by numerous dynasties for the next 1500 years, among which the Gupta dynasty stands out. It seems to me that both politics and religion went hand in hand in India since hundreds of years back. Religious movement began to spread simultaneously in ancient India. In the 17th and 6th century BC, new ascetic movement began to challenge the orthodoxy of rituals. Jainism, propounded by Mahavira, 549 century to 477 BCE, and Buddhism, started by Gautama Buddha, 563 to 483 BC, were most prominent icons of this ascetic movement in India. The source of all knowledge, the Upanishad, was composed around 800 BC to 400 BC. The Sangam period witnessed the flourishing of Sangama literature from 3rd century BC to 4th century that portrayed the history, politics, wars, and culture of Tamil people. However, there were many small rulers spread in the Indian subcontinent. It was the Mauryan Empire, 322 to 185 BC, that succeeded to unify India into one state and was the largest on Indian subcontinent. After Bindusara, Ashoka the Great is considered as the most famous king of this empire, who reigned around 37 years until his death in 232 BC. Arthashastra the most famous ancient Indian treatise on statecraft, economic policy, foreign policy, and military strategy was written by Kautilya, alias Vishnugupta or Chanakya during this period. The Gupta period, 320 to 550 CE, has been described as the golden age of Indian history. After the Kushans in the middle of 1st century, the Guptas were the most important dynasty. During the Gupta period, the glorious achievements in science, technology, engineering, arts, dialectic, literature, logic, mathematics, astronomy, religion, and philosophy that crystallized the elements of what is generally known as Hindu culture. The peace and prosperity created under the leadership of the Guptas enabled the pursuit of scientific and artistic endeavors in India. The high points of this cultural creativity are magnificent architecture, sculpture, and painting. The Gupta period produced great scholars such as Kalidasa, Aryabhatta, Baraho Mihra, Vishnu Sharma, and Vatsyayana, who made great advancements in many academic fields. The Gupta period marked the watershed of Indian culture. They performed Vedic sacrifices to legitimize their rule. At the same time, they also patronized Buddhism, which continued to provide an alternative to Brahmanical orthodoxy. The most renowned rulers of the dynasty are Chandragupta I, Samudragupta, and Chandragupta II, who brought much of India under their leadership. Science and political administration reached a new height during the Gupta era. Strong trade ties that made the region an important cultural center and established it as a base that would influence nearby kingdoms and regions in Burma, Sri Lanka, maritime Southeast Asia, and Indonesia. Indian scholars and religious envoys had both academic as well as religious exchanges with other foreign nations. Ancient India had trade relations with China, Rome, and Egypt. Most of the countries were mainly in Asia and Europe, and most of the trades were carried out with wheat, rice, lentils, chickens, figs, sugar, salt, pepper, cotton, cinnamon, and spices. Also, silk, gold, and pottery were traded among these states. The mode of transportation was initially used as camels, donkeys, and caravans. After a while, people began to trade using ships on the ocean. However, the people continued to use oxen, camels, and caravans to travel on land. India exported pearls, cotton, sandalwood, perfumed oil, and precious stones for coins, and imported silk from China to make cloths for the upper class. They also imported ginger root, gold Roman coins, glassware, wine, tin, copper, indigo, sandalwood, muslin, ivory, peacocks, medicines, silverware, and cloths to foreign lands. Present-day Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Pondicherry, and other states had trade relations with the Western world. Though India had a trade and commercial relations with many Western countries since time immemorial, those commercial activities were held mainly in private level. From the 17th century AD, India's seaborne trade passed into the hands of the Arabs, who dominated the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea. It was from them that the enterprising merchants of Venice and Genoa purchased Indian goods. This monopoly of Indian trade with the Arabs and the Venetians, poured in 1498 by Vasco da Gama, widened the scope of establishing the direct commercial relation with India. Further, with a view to gain direct access to the spice market in Southeast Asia, the Dutch undertook several voyages from 1596 and ultimately set up Dutch East India Company in 1602 before granting the jamindari of 3 villages such as Sultanati, Calicut and Govindpur on payment of only rupees 1200 to the British traders in 1698 by Azimush Khan. A peace accord was concluded either between Job Chanak and the Mughals in 1690, which facilitated the English agent Job Chanak to set up an English factory at Sultanati in 1691. The French also did not remain far behind their Dutch and English counterparts. It was Mr. Colbert, a minister of Louis XIV, who had set up the company's des Indes Orientales in 1664, financed by the state. The first French factory in India was established by Caron at Surat in 1668, followed by the famous French factory in Bengal at Chandannagar in 1692. The Danes also formed an East India Company and arrived in India in 1616. The Danish settlements were established at Tankarbar in Tamil Nadu in 1620 and at Srirampur in Bengal in 1676, which was the headquarters of Danes in India. They failed to strengthen themselves in India and in 1845 were forced to sell all their Indian settlements to the British. Initially, the European traders came to India in search of trading opportunities because India was full of natural wealth such as spices, calicos, silk, various precious stones, porcelain, etc. that caught the attention of the European traders from the early medieval period. But the Europeans failed to establish a direct trade relation with India, as all major land routes to India were then controlled by the Arabs, who constantly resisted the Europeans to enter the Indian market. This prompted the Europeans to discover a safe sea route to the Golden East. The British began to rise quickly because of the intelligence of its officers, agents and traders. Soon, commercial rivalry of the English traders turned into bloody warfare with other European companies such as Dutch, French and Portuguese. As due to strong naval power of the British, the superiority of commanders in British camp and weakness of the latter Mughal emperors, the cleverest and power-hungry British traders turned the master of Indians through the tactics, diplomacy and money and naval power. This was the situation in India before the before the 18th century. Yes, before the 18th century, and ultimately the British people became the master of Indians and ruled India for 190 years and till we got our independence in 1947 midnight. Thank you. Today I would like to conclude here, and the next part from independence to the latest position of India. I will discuss maybe in 3-4 videos. This was a part of that book. I hope that you will enjoy it, and thank you.